It wasn't just an age sneaker. It's like you're getting to wear something that came from the Nike DNA archives. They said even just making the midsole itself, it was one of the hardest things they've ever done in their sneaker careers.
Welcome to another episode of the SoleSavy podcast. My name is Marco Henry Negrete, and today I have a special episode in honor of a major historical release coming up. Sean Collard, based out of Montreal, Canada, big time sneaker collector, educator, teacher, and both the classroom and outside of the classroom when it comes to sneaker history with the OG support group. Sean, thanks for being with us.
Oh, thanks for having me, Marco. Guys, this is a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, we were just saying off camera that the AJ2 is coming back, and there's only one guy in the entire sneaker community that you need to ask when it comes to the AJ2, and that's you, Sean. First of all, this has been a long time coming for you and other supporters of the Air Jordan 2. How does it feel that it's finally here, just days away?
I mean, it's been a long time coming, like you said. It's kind of surreal, to be honest with you. I've been begging for this for many years to see this. I'm so excited to see people finally get these in hands. And then, believe it or not, there are actually a lot of Air Jordan 2 fans out there, a lot more than people might think. And even before, Virgil and everybody else hopped on the train, even before then, there was a lot of people. So I'm excited for everybody to get their hands on these shoes coming out on the 30th.
You have such a strong tie to this shoe, and I know it dates back to your playing days and your early collecting days, but why does the AJ2 mean so much to you?
It's that FOMO that I've had since I was about 13 years old. So bringing it way back, I'm quite I'm an older guy. I'm 49 there, but back when obviously Michael Jordan started playing, I was 11 years old when he hit the NBA, and we started hearing the buzz about his Air Jordans. And living in Canada, we didn't see a lot of the Nike commercials and stuff like that, unless we watched, we get like one game a week on Saturdays on our local CBS affiliate from Vermont, which is just across the border. So we didn't get a lot of Bulls games and stuff. So we would hear buzz about the Air Jordan, and we would hear, or if I went to play in a tournament, we'd see like, oh, there's that thing with that little wings logo on the side. That's an Air Jordan. And so I was intrigued by all this, obviously, and hearing the buzz around Michael Jordan and all that stuff. That I wanted to get a pair of Air Jordans back in '85. They were a little too expensive. So one of my local mom and pop shops here, it's long gone, but they had the AJKOs, and they were $19.99 for a pair of AJKOs. So I got the black and red AJKOs back in '85. It never felt like a real Jordan to me. So because of the canvas, because it didn't say Air Jordan on the side, it said AJKO, I didn't know what that meant. But it was very cool to have it, and I had something kind of connected to this new flashy player that everybody was talking about. And then a year later, or 2 years later, in '87, I saw the '87 dunk contest, and that blew me away. I had no idea what he was wearing on his feet. They were all white with his black midsole, and who knew what a midsole was back in 1987? But I didn't know what they were, and I just watching Michael Jordan wearing them and doing these insane things, floating from the free throw line, and all the dunks that he did in the '87 dunk contest. I had to have the shoes. And then literally a week later, during a Lakers Celtics epic battle on CBS, there was the infamous Imagination commercial where he's in a dark lit gym. The bass line kicks in. It kind of people say it sounds like the Seinfeld theme, and I love Seinfeld, so it's not an insult, but it's not a Seinfeld theme. And then he does the rock the cradle dunk, and then the taglines, Air Jordan's all in the imagination, and they show a close up, a brightly lit close up on the shoes. And I was immediately obsessed. The problem is when you're a 13, 14-year-old kid, who knows where to get these things? And you may have told me I had to go to like Antarctica to get them, because I had no idea where to get them. We didn't have the internet, so it wasn't like I could go check the internet where to find them. I was checking like local stores. If my local mom and pop or Foot Locker didn't have them, I wasn't getting them. So cut to my team was going to a tournament in upstate New York in the fall of '87. So this is like several months after I'd seen this commercial, and I actually have this commercial on tape still on VHS that I recorded that game to watch, and I still have that VHS tape. I've actually posted it on my Instagram page a few times. But so my mom said if we find them in upstate New York, in this place called Plattsburgh, New York, I'll get them for you for that season's wear. And we get to Plattsburgh, and the first thing we do, we check into the hotel. We run to the mall, and I'm running through the mall trying to find the Foot Locker. I get to the Foot Locker, and they're sitting there on the shelf. And I'm like, this is it. This is my day. I'm getting this new Air Jordan sneaker. They weren't called twos at the time. They were just new Air Jordans. And so I grabbed it off the shelf and I looked at the price tag and it said $100. And $100 in 1980, $100 is a lot of money now.
Yeah.
But in 1987, for a single mom who was a teacher also, she was like, well, that's ridiculous. I'm not paying $100 for a pair of shoes. So literally that led to me. I never actually ended up getting the original Jordan 2s. So that one like refusal, that denial has made me obsessed with this shoe for the last 35 years now. It just never went away. And so, I was lucky enough I found them when they retroed for the first time. I actually found them in 1996, that when they retroed for, I think, $75 in when I was on vacation in Arizona. So that was the first time I ever actually got a pair of twos in 96. So it's just like, I don't know. I've been obsessed. Every time I see a picture of Michael Jordan wearing the twos, it still gives me the same feeling after all of these years later, and I can't explain it. It's just, I guess, just that that FOMO got really hooked me in.
Yeah, man, all too familiar with that kind of story. I have a similar one that I'll save for another day. I've told it a million times, but the same thing happened to me with the '01 Royal, and it
Oh
haunted.
man,
I just couldn't stop thinking about that
yeah,
shoe for over a decade
that's
until the
it.
next retro, and then even to this day, it still kind of holds that same place. I do want to talk about fast forwarding to 2022, even 2021. When you think about the off white coming back first, the low, and then where we are now a year later, we've seen, I mean, the heavy hitters of collaborations,
Yeah.
including a bunch of new collaborations, which I thought was really cool instead of just the kind of people we expected. What do you think led to this return here? I know that you had some kind of insider information. You've talked to people at the brand before, but how do you think we got here? Because people are crazy about dunks. People are crazy about Jordan 1 highs and Jordan 1 lows. And the 2 is neither of those things. So what do you think made the last year or so and continuing to happen be the perfect time or the right time, or just the time that Jordan Brand decided to bring the shoe back?
I think they've released so many ones over the last, and the one is so popular. I don't know for sure what it was that led to the decision at the brand level to bring and put as much emphasis and effort into bringing the Jordan 2 back the way they have. I did have an opportunity to speak with someone high up at the brand who's no longer with them anymore, but back in Chicago for All-Star Weekend in Chicago. And that was the first time I heard they were going to do this, was in 2020 and in February 2020. And when he told me that they're going to be focusing on the twos and really doing a huge push, I mean, I almost fell over. I almost fainted because it was like, music to my ears, obviously. And then a few months later, I got someone from the brand reached out and for a little assistance, and again explained that they're really, really wanting to focus on getting the shoe right, down to the packaging, the booklet, the hang tag, everything was good. And I mean, obviously, this was like a dream come true to me, because I would have just been happy if it had come back out in decent quality. You know what I mean? Let alone like really put the emphasis and again bring back the the box and the OG hang tag and the booklet. I never thought that would happen. But then in my conversations with them, they did mention that their game plan was to really focus on. I mean, we do live in a different sneaker world nowadays, where the collaborations do speak to a younger collector, a younger sneaker enthusiast. So the best way they could do that, and best way they could get people's eyes on the twos and make them take them seriously, was to get people like Virgil and people like James Whitner involved. People who were doing big things with the Jordan 1, the Jordan 3, with James Whitner with the threes, but that was a huge release last year as well. And so to really get people to take it seriously, they needed to do that and just and build a momentum going into the release of the OG, which is coming up again on December 30th. But I mean, all of this was supposed to start last year, but because of COVID, everything got pushed back, right? I'm sure you're well aware of that too. But so everything's kind of being crunched into like 1 year, where it's supposed to be, I think, spread out between 2 years. And so it looks like, oh my God, they're bombarding us with twos. I guess it's heaven for me. I'm sure people out there, the average person's like, what? Okay, what more twos? Are you kidding me? But I've really have loved watching people's reactions to this because you know, people joke around about, now you love the twos, right? Because Virgil did one, or because James Whitner did one. But why? Who cares why people
Yeah.
why people like it? Like, if that's what it takes for them to enjoy something, why not? I liked it because of Michael Jordan. This is
Yeah,
their
it's
sort
like,
of Michael Jordan, right? They don't, Michael Jordan hasn't played basketball in the NBA for 20 years, so it's like these are their people that they're interested in. So let's you know, let them have their day. So
yeah. And that argument is almost becoming like, it's been outdated for a long time, but that
yeah,
argument's almost like irrelevant now when you think about the way a collab releases even now compared to a few years ago. These collabs are almost like the new GRs, right? So you're not necessarily even a quote unquote hype beast if you
right,
only like the twos because they did a union collab, because there was plenty of
exactly.
pairs of those to go around. So it wasn't like you're after the stuff that's ultra limited. But yeah, I hear you on that too. It's like, well, if we're shoes aren't supposed to inspire you, then what are we doing, right? Like
Exactly.
when you wearing,
Exactly.
if you're wearing ones in 1985, no one was going to say you're only wearing those because MJ's wearing them. Well, duh. Like, you know how,
Exactly. They're
yeah, so
called Air Jordans.
if somebody wants these because the late great Virgil made them, well, yeah, of course,
Yeah,
like that's who inspires them. That's the
exactly.
whole point of the brand partnering with these type of creatives and athletes and musicians, etc. So I'm with you on that one. And how do you think the brand's done so far? We acknowledge the fact that the timing was thrown off. There was obviously an international pandemic in the middle of this rollout, things that are far more important than sneaker rollouts. But given all of that, given the sheer amount of collabs that they had to roll out, how do you think the last year has gone for the AJ2?
It's gotten a lot of people talking about the AG2, and that's all they really want to do. That's all they want to accomplish, and I think they've accomplished that. And the product itself is fantastic, right? So it's they really put a lot of effort and money behind this and getting it right. They put I think the A team on in terms of the developers who came up with or work closely with Virgil, work closely with James Whitner, and work closely with you know, are getting the OG right.
Yep.
So if you're going to put your money where your mouth is, and which is what they've done, and I think they've done an amazing job. I mean, again, because everything's kind of crammed into 1 year, was supposed to be two. It's like it does. I was getting worried for a minute that people are, they're excited about the twos. Now they're gonna get sick of the twos because
Yeah.
it's gonna go come kind of full circle because there's so many twos coming out. But I've seen a lot of people are very 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 excited about the OG coming out, the Chicago coming out in a couple of weeks. So I think that's going to be the icing on the cake for the end of the year.
I do wanted to ask you something. You know, the OG support group. Well, first of all, can you explain to listeners unfamiliar what the OG support group is?
Sure. So it's a group of guys, and I started this page back in 2016, and it was at a time where we felt there was a space there that we could have we could fill in terms of bringing back some nostalgia, bringing back some history, bringing back the reason why we like the sneakers. It's not just about buying and, you know, buy, sell, flip, whatever, you know, the way things have gone. We kind of got a little bit tired of seeing that cycle. We want to remind people why we're interested in these shoes in the first place, which is again, it's the athletes that we love. It's the hip hop stars that we love growing up. There was a connection, there was a meaning behind the shoes. It's not just you know, fancy footwear to show off on Instagram. There's actually meaning and connection behind them. So with that in mind, we decided to come up with a page, start the page. And there's 7 of us, and we just told stories. We shared our own personal stories and connections with the sneakers. We shared you know, old commercials and stuff, like just to remind people again where it came from. It wasn't just like all of a sudden, you know, the 2011 the Concord released and then everybody loved sneakers, and then it's like you know, something exploded and people love sneakers. It was there's a whole history there. Even before I, you know, I'm 49, but even before I was around, people were into sneakers. So there's a long history, and that we want to remind people of that.
There is definitely a fine line between educating the next generation on something that you really love, and then you know, gatekeeping, which we see a lot of. Speaking of that, what is something about the Air Jordan 2, or some things about the Air Jordan 2, that you think the common sneakerhead today, or maybe the new sneakerhead doesn't know about this shoe?
I think the main thing for me, it's not even what they don't know about the shoe, it's what they think they know about the shoe that bothers me. And they think there's a lot of misunderstanding about the two. There's a lot of misinformation about the two. A lot of people think Michael Jordan was about to leave Nike because of the Air Jordan 2, because he hated the Air Jordan 2 so much he was going to leave. It's ridiculous. That never happened. That was a whole financial thing. It was an agreement. His contract was up. People thought he broke his foot in the two. And I hate to say it because Tinker is one of my heroes, but Tinker Hatfield interview actually said himself once that Michael Jordan broke his foot in the two. And so, there's video footage of him breaking his foot in the one. So should be common knowledge, but there's so much misinformation about the two. And again, I think that's where all of the hate for the two is stemmed from. I think it started on the forums, where people, again, they jumped to that conclusion that Michael Jordan was going to leave after the two, was going to leave Nike and then go to Adidas, and they thought, oh, that's because of the two. I want people to know how groundbreaking the two was.
Mm-hmm.
And still is to this day. If you look at an Air Jordan 2, it's unlike really any sneaker you've ever seen before. It was made in Italy, the original model. And if you look at the transition from the Jordan 1, now everybody loves the Jordan 1 now. Everybody back in 80, besides the colorways that were funky and different, the red and white and black and the black and red and black and blue, because most sneakers were, either all white with some blue, all white with some gray, so on and so forth. It was basically the same as any other sneaker. The Air Jordan 1 was like a dunk. It was like there's nothing really unique about an Air Jordan 1. When you look at an Air Jordan 1 to an Air Jordan 2, it's like a complete game changer. And even when you look at the Air Jordan 2, there's so many design elements from the Air Jordan 2 that Tinker used on the 3 that I don't think people realize. The lacing system, the midsole is polyurethane. The use of faux animal print. The 2s have the lizard print, the elephant prints on the 3s. There's so many things that Tinker took from the 2 to use for the 3 that I don't think people, and I've tried to explain this on my page, but like I think people just think I'm biased towards a 2, so that's just Sean being the 2 guy. But it really was groundbreaking, the 2, and I don't think people really give it the credit that it's deserved, because I think, again, it's all that misinformation about how Michael Jordan was going to leave the brand, and they all assume it was because of the 2. You can't find anything on anywhere where Michael Jordan said anything negative about the 2, so I don't know where they got that from. But again, I think it's just they skipped a few steps and assumed. But yeah, so it's just groundbreaking overall. It really is. Nothing like the 2 in my opinion.
Yeah, and there could be an argument made that if the 2 never happened, the conventional way of signature shoes going from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, like numbered, never happens either, right?
Yeah.
Like,
and the biggest thing that they removed the Nike swoosh off the entire upper. There's only a small, the word Nike on the heel of the 2. That had never been done before. Obviously, they took the branding off the shoe completely. So that laid ground, because a lot of people credit Tinker for doing that, but really, if you look at the 2, where's the Nike swoosh on the 2 besides the insole? So huge move for Nike back then. And shout out to Bruce Kilgore and Peter Moore for co-designing the 2.
Yeah, I think it took a long time for the 2 to get its flowers, but there's no question its importance to history, right?
For sure.
Speaking of history, what is in 2022 big year for the 2? Outside of the OG, what has been your favorite this year?
Oh, easily the Amamaniere 2s. James Whitner and his team did an amazing job on those, and I just love the overall aesthetic of them, the quality, the storytelling that James Whitner does with his team on every release, but specifically with the Jordan 2 is amazing. With that the tagline airness. And the videos that they do, it speaks to a lot of people. Definitely spoke to me as an educator, and I've actually shown his videos in my class. And the Amamaniere 2 is easily my favorite 2 of the year.
Yeah, great.
Besides the OG, of course.
yeah. No, great storytelling always. Yeah. From them. It's really cool to be at a place in sneaker culture where like the people leading the way for a lot of these brands are sneakerheads too, right? There's a very special story about this shoe right here, and the late great Virgil Abloh sending you a pair and the personal message. How did that happen, and what were your conversations like with him?
I didn't have a ton of conversations. I had several, but they were always very mutually complimentary. But it really was it was because of the two. I mean, there was I jumped back several months before all of this happened with the twos with him and designing the two and all that stuff. Someone had sent me a link to or something on his page, and I didn't follow Virgil at the time because I wasn't the Off-White brand wasn't on my radar at the time. I was more into like strictly
Yep.
OG kind of stuff, and this wasn't my kind of sort of wheelhouse. So but I went to his check the link, the post the person shared with me, and then I went to his bio, Virgil's bio, and I saw follow back on his that he was already following me. So I was like, oh damn, that's insane. So
Yeah.
I followed him, and then I had the conversations about the two coming back with the brand, and I'd heard that Virgil was going to do one, and then leading up to we started hearing about his twos, the low twos, and the what he was going to do with it, and he was going to try to make it like look like a vintage two, which people were like, that's already kind of been done. But when you actually heard what his theory was behind it, or what his inspiration was behind it, it made sense to me. And one of the biggest things that he did before the two even launched was that I shared something about his twos that once we started seeing leaked pictures of them and stuff on my page, and how excited I was about them. And he, on one, I think it was a Saturday or Sunday morning, spent hours and hours almost doing a Q&A in the comments on my page, on the
I
post
remember
on
that.
my
Yeah.
page. And that was blowing my mind. And I was like, I can't believe he's doing this. This is insane. But it was so cool to watch. You got to see the picture in his like sort of inside of his brain about what he was thinking about, why he did certain things with the shoe, why he did, why he made it, why he wanted this midsole to look like it was cracked. And really what he wanted to do, it was not just to make a vintage looking shoe, it was that he wanted the consumer to have an experience that they took a sneaker out of the Jordan 2 out of the Nike DNA archives and gave it to you, and you were able to wear it. He wanted it to have that experience. So that made me see it in a completely different light. It wasn't just an age sneaker. It's like you're getting to wear something that came from the Nike DNA archives. It's an insane theory and an insane idea that he had, and apparently from what I've because I've talked to the developers who are on this project, they said even just making the midsole itself and how it looks cracked, it was one of the hardest things they've ever
Yep.
done in their sneaker careers. People think, oh, it's just an age two or an age sneaker. It's a fake age sneaker, but they don't really understand how hard this was to make. So all that to say, when he was doing that, sort of going through the people's answering people's comments on my post and doing a Q&A, I sent him a message just thanking him for doing that, and it's really opening people's eyes. And he replied back, "It's my pleasure. I do this for the culture and blah blah blah," which is very cool of him. And then he said, "Send me your shoe size and apparel sizes." And I'm like, "Well, oh my
Yeah.
god, what the?" That I almost once again, and they're falling out of my chair, falling over moment. It was insane. And then to think that several months later, and this was in October, and then in November when I got this huge box on my doorstep. And not only did it include the shoes, I have, if you guys are watching on wherever you guys post this, he sent the box. The box is signed to me, and then the shoes themselves were personalized also via Ablo on one, and then my name for Sean in quotes on the other. I to say it's surreal. I mean, it's an understatement. I couldn't believe that he took the time to do that. And then again, in retrospect, knowing what happened, less than 2 weeks later, he passed away. Less than 2 weeks after I received this box and these shoes, he passed away. And to think that I get chills thinking about today that one of the last things he did was personalize a pair of shoes for this, then 48-year-old teacher from Canada, just because I have this passion for the twos, and he appreciated my passion for the twos so much that he wanted me to have one of his pairs. Again, it gives me chills to this day, and it's something I'll obviously never forget. And I'm so appreciative, and it's one of my favorite stories of all time for me personally.
Is there anybody out there that you would love to see do a two that hasn't? or has a design.
Is there anybody that hasn't done it to at this point?
True, true. What about some colorways you want to see come back?
I'd love to see the other OG colorway come back. The white, red, and gray. The Virgil colorway, but in a high.
Yep.
And straightforward, not a collab, just much like the Chicago. I'm sure
Yeah,
that'll come back
I
eventually.
love this thing right here.
Oh
It's
yeah,
no
those are great.
collab, but
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
my favorite Jordan 2. Like
Oh yeah,
this
so
thing is
comfortable, right?
so yeah. Especially this is the last retro, which is what I don't know, 2015 or
2016.
something,
Yeah,
16. So
yeah.
it wasn't necessarily seen as the golden age of quality for the
Right.
brand. But man, this thing is super comfortable. I would
Super
be really
comfortable.
excited to
Yeah.
see what this would look like with a little bit of OG treatment.
Absolutely, absolutely. And and when I post this particular pair on my page, it's the black and chrome twos that came out in
Yep.
2004. Very, very popular. I would like to see those come back. I wouldn't mind seeing them come back in leather instead of Durabuck. That would be neat to see.
Interesting. Talk to us a little bit about um the booklet that comes with the Air Jordan 2 High. I heard so I don't have a pair yet, but I heard that you might have had a little something to do with that.
Yeah, so that again, it's all mind blowing. So back to April of 2020, someone at the brand in the a senior director at the brand reached out and said they again doing the twos, taking it seriously, and what they needed some assistance. They want to know if, and I he knew I was a huge fan of the twos, and I think he wanted to get me involved in some way because I
Yep.
was such a huge fan. And there weren't really many of us or of me out there, so. And I'd been pushing this like literally at least twice or three times a week on my page for I've probably 4 or 5 years at this point. So he and I again very selfishly because I just wanted a pair for me. I didn't care who else liked them or not. Is all of this is great. It's all coming true and it's fantastic. But it really was all very selfish. I just wanted the twos to come back for me. I want people to love them, but I also wanted to come back for me. But no, so he reached out and they needed help because they didn't actually have the booklet or the OG hang tag in the archives. So he wanted to know if I had them. I don't have them. Again, that's my sob story for the day because I didn't get them back when I was 13 years old, and I can't afford to get a pair in the aftermarket or like a vintage pair because those are like $5,000 to $10,000 depending on the condition. So I knew right away who I want to ask, and I was 99% sure. But my friend Todd Montero, who is also a rabid Air Jordan 2 fan, he just doesn't post as much on Instagram as I do, but he had his OGs from when he was 13 years old. We're the same age. So he had the shoes, he had the booklet, he had the hang tag. So he was able to get the Nike or Jordan brand high res scans of the booklet and hang tag and send them off. And so, which is very cool because every pair that comes out is the booklet and the hang tag that come with it are his based
That's
on
awesome.
his scans of his booklet and hang tag from 1987. It's very, very, I'm very excited for him.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. Speaking of that, the OG packaging, the details. What are a few things that they really got right on this pair dropping at the end of the month that you thought may have been missing from past retros?
So here's if you guys are watching this, here's this is the 2022 coming out. This is a sample pair, but what I've seen is the pairs that are retail are very, very. I don't see any difference personally, but the main thing that they did was work on the shape of the toe box, and because the OG was very, very sleek. It had a very, very sleek toe, and every retro, including even the 95, every retro had the 95 was a bit better, but they had very boxy toe boxes. And so they worked really hard on getting the toe box to be nice and slim and have the overlay sort of come up to the top of the toe, as opposed to like just a flat straight toe. And that for me that changes the look of the shoe completely. It makes it so much more sleek, and sort of I think a lot of people were turned off to the twos because of how
Yeah, it
boxy
does
they
have
looked.
even this one has like a
Yeah.
really, really aggressive toe box. Like it
Yeah.
sticks out.
Yeah. Whereas the 2022 is really, you can see on camera there, it's really, really sleek. And it really changes the whole look of the shoe for me. But they used a really great cut of leather. People are upset it wasn't made in Italy. It's not Italian leather. I don't know if they wanted the price tag to be $500 a pair, but that,
Yeah.
and actually between whoever's us and me and whoever's listening, they were actually going to make them in Italy. They were going to do a run in Italy, and COVID shut it down. So there you go. People were upset they weren't going to make it in Italy. They were going to make it in Italy, but unfortunately that it got shut down. But the main thing for me is that sleek toe box. So that's it's so cool to see that come back.
I gotta ask you, is the AJ2 here to stay, or do you think it's a trend?
I mean, as far as I'm hearing from people at the brand, it's not going anywhere. I mean, we're looking already at, I think, spring 2023. I'm seeing shoes that are, twos that are coming out then. I really think they've put a lot of money and effort behind this, and I do think it's here to stay.
Well, you heard it here first, everybody. The biggest Air Jordan 2 expert in the world says the AJ2 is in fact here to stay.
Yeah, yeah.
Sean, appreciate you joining us today, man. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me on. Appreciate it.